So we were going to do either a live stream today or I was going to pump out some stories. Unfortunately, the studio is still not fixed. It should definitely be fixed by the next time we have a show. I decided to do some stories instead of a live stream because we just did a live stream and there's a bunch of stuff in the news that I want to catch up on. So a big story that I missed, which has had a number of developments since it first came out, is about a woman named Emily Wilder. She's a young woman who worked for the Associated Press, and she was targeted by the right for things she said when she was younger. I think some of the things she was in college. They talked about the fact that she called Ben Shapiro a little turd. She went after, I believe it was Sheldon Adelson, and called him some sort of greedy mole rat or some shit. I don't remember the exact phrase she used for Sheldon Adelson, but she was a shit poster. She would go online and shit post like everybody of this upcoming generation does. I mean, if you're millennial or Gen Z and you haven't shit posted, I think you're probably a psychopath. I mean, I'm more likely to trust somebody who has shit posted and shown their whole ass on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or elsewhere. I'm more likely to defend those people and think they're normal than I am somebody who didn't do it, because I just think it's creepy. If you haven't been online shit posting and showing everybody your whole ass, what the fuck have you been doing? So anyway, beyond that, and this is the thing I think that really triggered the right, beyond that, she apparently was part of the, movement for justice for Palestinians or something like that when she was in college. And this was pointed out by the right as if it's some sort of bias, as if it's totally unacceptable. And they're pretending, like, in the context of this story, that in order to cover Israel and Palestine, you have to be perfectly neutral in every sense of the word. And you have to, never call a spade when it comes to Israel doing wrong and Israel being the aggressor and Israel killing Palestinians. Funny, they don't target any reporters or journalists or commentators if they have a very pro-Israel opinion. In fact, they think that's the right opinion to have, but somehow being biased in that direction is totally fine. But it's unacceptable to be biased in the direction of Palestinians. And so Senator Tom Cotton, took part in this dunking campaign on Emily Wilder. There were other prominent conservatives who did as well. And what ended up happening is the Associated Press fired her. Now understand something, she wasn't even covering the issue of Israel-Palestine. If she was, I would still be defending her because, she has opinions that I think are intelligent and objective on this, but she wasn't even covering that. She was covering something else entirely. In fact, I think she was covering, it was something like Phoenix or whatever. She was covering, I think, the Phoenix area. And she was fired. She was fired by the AP staff. And when she asked the AP, okay, why am I being fired? Their response was, see, what happened was the things about the stuff and them with the terms of service and the social media policy and the social media policy. So she kept asking them, and they wouldn't say why she was being fired, other than, she violated our social media policy. What was it? Was it calling Ben Shapiro a little turd? Was it making fun of Sheldon Adelson? Was it being part of a movement in college for justice for Palestinians? The answer is probably all of the above, but probably mostly the fact that she was part of a pro-Palestine group. Now understand, this woman is also Jewish. So they fired an American Jew for having pro-Palestinian opinions. The whole point of talking about this story is to show you this is cancel culture. This is political correctness. This is hatred of free speech. People on the right pretend to oppose cancel culture unless and until they find a target that they want to target. So if it's somebody who's expressing left-wing ideals or a left-wing opinion or politically incorrect left-wing opinion, oh my God. Oh my God. They're coming for your head on a platter, son. And that's exactly what happened here. And what's so astonishing to me is how blinded these people are by their own bias and how grossly unprincipled they are. This reminds me of when, the right came after Lil Nas X because Lil Nas X released like a Satan sneaker, and you had Governor Kristi Noem say he should be canceled for this, when her whole thing, she's been in the media nonstop arguing that cancel culture is evil and terrible and wrong, and we shouldn't have cancel culture. But again, when she found a target that she liked, oh my God, she was all in, and she's leading the charge for cancel culture. And then now you have the same thing with Emily Wilder. Now, thankfully, over 100 Associated Press employees signed an open letter saying that they strongly disapprove of how the organization handled the firing of Emily Wilder. And in response to that, the Associated Press is trying desperately to keep the wheels on the bus. I mean, they feel like they botched this 1,000 different ways because they did. And so now they're doing damage control. And they're panicking behind the scenes, and they're sending letters to other, the employees of Associated Press and saying, no, you have a place here, you can speak your mind here. And obviously, no, people can't. They can't, because you fired somebody after a low-quality pressure campaign and harassment campaign. So I don't know what's going to happen in response, but obviously, the Associated Press should hire Emily Wilder back. The only problem is, now if I'm Emily Wilder, I don't even know if I want the job. Because what they're showing is, don't you dare step out of line. Don't you dare step out of line with Washington consensus and elite consensus. That's what they're saying here. And it really blows up this notion of a free press or an objective press. We have none of it. You have to say the things that are politically correct among the establishment in order to be part of establishment media. And this goes to show you why they're just, frankly, terrible at their jobs. Even the ones who are nominally better than others. Like I would have said before this, the Associated Press is nominally better than fucking CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. But now you see this and you realize there's a strict regime of constraints that's laid on employees. And usually the pressure is quiet and it's behind the scenes. But this is an instance of them massively overstepping and giving into right-wing cancel culture and right-wing political correctness. And again, I come full circle to one of my main points, which is this is why you should, in principle, object to cancel culture. Because it always is going to come for people who we like and who say interesting things, and for people who are correct. Because honestly, the opinions that are more accurate are despised in mainstream media. So oppose cancel culture in all of its forms, because of course it's going to come from people on the left. People on the left, by definition, question power centers and authority more. And so if you question power centers and authority, of course the power centers and the authority figures are going to come for you and try to silence you. And this is just such a great example of it. So oppose cancel culture in all of its forms. Right-wingers are blinded and oblivious to the fact that they have their own version of cancel culture, and the media needs to do a much better job. But I say that, but you know what? Probably in the eyes of the executives at these media companies, they think this is us doing a good job. Because their idea of a good job is rigidly enforcing the parameters of the debate, rigidly enforcing the barriers of the Overton window. And as you can see, on this issue, you're not allowed to dissent. You're not allowed to be pro-Palestinian. You're not allowed to call a spade in this instance. Because if you do, you're going to get fired, and that's exactly what happened here.